I remember the first time I saw a snake in my dream. It felt so real that when I woke up, my heart was pounding. The image stayed in my mind, the movement, the silence, the feeling that something was watching me. But what disturbed me the most was not the dream itself, it was what I believed it meant. Because at that time, I was deeply involved in witchcraft, and in that world, dreams were never just dreams. Every symbol had meaning, every image carried a message, and snakes were one of the most important symbols we were taught to recognize. I was told that seeing a snake in a dream could mean attack, manipulation, hidden enemies, or spiritual monitoring. Sometimes it was explained as a sign of power. Other times it was a warning of danger. But no matter the interpretation, one thing was consistent. It always created fear. So every time I had that dream again, and I did multiple times, I would wake up already anxious. I would start thinking about who might be working against me. I would try to decode the dream, searching for hidden meaning. My mind would go into overdrive. And the strange thing is, once you start believing those interpretations, the dreams feel more intense, more frequent, more vivid, more personal. It's like your mind begins to participate in the story you've been told. But here's what shocked me after I left that world. The dreams didn't stop immediately, but the fear did, because I began to understand something that completely changed how I saw those experiences. Not every dream is a spiritual message. In fact, most of the time, your dreams are simply your mind processing thoughts, emotions, stress, and memories in symbolic ways. Today, I'm going to tell you the truth about seeing snakes in your dreams, not from superstition, not from fear, but from clarity. Because what I discovered will either free you or completely challenge what you've been taught to believe. After that first dream, snakes stopped being just an image in my mind. They became a signal. Inside the occult world, symbols were everything. We were trained to assign meaning to images, and snakes were one of the most heavily interpreted symbols. But here's what most people don't realize: the meaning was never consistent. Sometimes we were told a snake represented an enemy. Other times, it represented hidden knowledge. In some cases, it meant spiritual attack. In others, it meant transformation or power. The interpretation would change depending on the situation, the person, or even the mood of the one explaining it. But there was one constant element in every explanation: uncertainty. And uncertainty produces fear, because when a symbol can mean multiple things, your mind starts searching for the worst possible interpretation. You begin asking questions like, who is against me? What is being planned behind my back? Is something targeting me right now? I remember waking up after one of those dreams and immediately feeling unsettled for the entire day. Nothing had actually happened. There was no real threat in front of me, But internally, I was already preparing for something negative. That is how powerful suggestion can be. Once a symbol is connected to fear, your mind fills in the rest. And here's the deeper truth: the symbol itself is not the problem. The meaning you attach to it is. Because when meaning is unstable, your emotions become unstable. One night the snake might feel like a warning. Another night it might feel like power. But either way, you're not at peace. You're constantly interpreting. And constant interpretation leads to mental exhaustion. That's what I didn't realize back then. I thought I was becoming more spiritually aware. In reality, I was becoming more mentally overwhelmed. Because instead of resting, my mind was working all night, creating images, attaching meaning, and then carrying that tension into my waking life. And the more seriously I took those interpretations, the more real they felt. But feeling real does not mean something is true. That distinction is what began to break the hold those dreams had over me. What I didn't understand back then is that the human mind speaks in symbols, especially during dreams. When you're asleep, your brain is not processing information the same way it does when you're awake. It's not thinking in clear sentences or logical structure. It's organizing emotions, memories, stress, and experiences, and it uses imagery to do that. And some images are more powerful than others. Snakes, for example, are one of the most common symbols across cultures. Even people who have never had any spiritual teaching about snakes still dream about them. Why? Because the brain naturally associates snakes with alertness, danger, caution, or something unfamiliar. It's a survival response. Your mind is not trying to send you a mystical message. It's trying to process something that feels significant to you. I started noticing this pattern when I stepped away from occult thinking. The nights I had stressful days, I would dream more intensely. The times I felt uncertain about something in my life, the dreams became more symbolic. Not spiritual, symbolic. A snake in a dream can represent many things psychologically: tension, fear, change, something you're avoiding, or even something you don't fully understand yet. But here's the key: it reflects your internal state, not an external spiritual attack. That realization was uncomfortable at first, because it meant I had to stop looking outside for answers and start looking inward. Instead of asking, "Who is coming against me?" I had to ask, "What am I feeling right now?" And that question changed everything, because suddenly the dreams became less mysterious. They became understandable. If I was stressed, my dreams reflected stress. If I was overwhelmed, my dreams became intense. If I was thinking about something unresolved, my mind continued processing it at night. The snake wasn't a messenger. It was a symbol created by my own mind. And once I understood that, I stopped fearing it. Because you don't need protection from your own thoughts. You need awareness of them. And awareness removes the illusion of hidden, meaning that creates fear in the first place. One of the biggest illusions I lived under was this: if something feels intense, it must be important. And that belief kept me trapped for a long time, because dreams, especially vivid ones, can feel extremely real. When you see something like a snake moving towards you, your body doesn't calmly analyze it. Your heart races, your breathing changes, your brain reacts as if the situation is actually happening, even though you're asleep. So when you wake up, the emotion is still there. Fear doesn't disappear just because your eyes are open. And this is where the confusion begins. Because your mind tries to explain that feeling. It asks, why did that feel so real? And instead of choosing a simple explanation, like stress, memory, or subconscious processing, it jumps to a dramatic one. This must mean something important. This is a warning. Something is happening spiritually. That's exactly how I used to think. I remember waking up after a dream where a snake was following me. It didn't attack, it didn't even come close. But the feeling it created stayed with me all day. I was distracted, alert, slightly anxious without any visible reason. Nothing in my actual environment had changed, but internally, everything felt tense. That's what fear does. It carries over. And when you combine fear with a belief system that tells you dreams are messages, the experience becomes even more powerful. Your mind starts linking the emotion to meaning. It says, if it felt this strong, it must be serious. But that's not always true. Intensity does not equal importance. It just means your brain activated a strong emotional response. Dreams can feel real because your body reacts in real time. Your nervous system doesn't pause and say, this is only a dream. It responds immediately. So when you wake up, you're not just remembering an image, you're feeling the emotion attached to it. And if you don't understand that process, it's easy to believe the dream was something more than it actually was. That's what kept me in fear for years, not the dream itself, but the way I interpreted the feeling after it. Once I learned that emotions can be intense without being meaningful, everything began to shift, because I stopped letting the feeling decide the meaning. And that broke the cycle. The real question is not whether you will see a snake in your dreams again. The real question is, how will you respond when you do? Because the response is what determines whether the experience controls you or passes through you. For years, my response was fear. I would wake up and immediately start analyzing. I would replay the dream in my mind, looking for details. I would try to connect it to people, situations, or imagined threats. Without realizing it, I was feeding the experience. I was giving it attention. I was giving it meaning. I was giving it power. And whatever you give power to in your mind grows. But everything changed when I chose a different response. The next time I had a dream like that, I woke up and I didn't analyze it. I didn't rush to interpret it. I didn't assume it meant something external. Instead, I paused and asked a simple question. How do I actually feel right now? Not what the dream meant, not who it involved, just my internal state. And most of the time, the answer was simple. I was tired. I was stressed. I had been thinking too much the day before. The dream was not a message. It was a reflection. So instead of reacting with fear, I responded with awareness. I got up, drank water, gave my mind time to settle, and moved on with my day. No panic, no searching, no attaching meaning that wasn't there. And something surprising happened. The dreams lost their intensity. Not because they never came back, but because I stopped feeding them emotionally. That's the key most people miss. Dreams gain power through your reaction, not through their existence. If you wake up and immediately attach fear, your mind learns that the dream is important. It stores it more deeply. It becomes easier to repeat. But if you treat it as just another mental experience, something your brain created while processing, it fades naturally. No struggle required. So here's what you should do the next time it happens. Wake up. Stay calm. Don't rush to interpret. Give your mind space. Let the feeling pass without building a story around it. Because the moment you stop trying to decode everything, you start experiencing peace again. You don't need to fight your dreams. You just need to stop giving them authority over your mind. And once you do that, something shifts. The same dream that once terrified you becomes just another passing image. No control, no fear, no hidden message. Just your mind doing what it naturally does. And that is where real freedom begins.